Welcome to The Explainer. So, we're diving straight into a pretty wild concept today. How does a simple line of digital code legally and physically command the real world? It sounds like sci-fi, right? But we're going to build a literal bridge between sovereign law, specifically the really pioneering legal frameworks coming out of Liechtenstein, and Ethereum's most advanced technical protocols. If you've been wondering how these two massive systems actually collide to totally redefine digital ownership, well, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's get right into it. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We're hitting the token container model, the physical validator, the SIS01 identity trinity, and finally automating the validator. We're journeying all the way from civil law in Liechtenstein straight to the core operating system of Ethereum. But to really get this, we have to ask ourselves a pretty fundamental question. As the whole digital economy just keeps exploding, how do we guarantee that an online digital token actually represents a real-world tangible asset? Because historically, we've had to rely on a massive, honestly uncomfortable amount of blind trust in third parties. The whole point of what we're looking at today is how we completely eliminate that blind trust. Act 1. The legal engine. Let's start with how the law first tackled this. We're looking at the Liechtenstein Blockchain Act, formerly known as the TVTG, which dropped back in 2020. This introduced something totally revolutionary called the token container model. See, rather than trying to regulate every single new flavor of cryptocurrency, this framework sets up a brilliant premise. A token is just an empty digital vessel. It's kind of like a super secure, legally binding piece of digital Tupperware, and whoever holds that token legally holds whatever rights are packed inside of it. The real genius here is the sheer flexibility of it all. Since the token is just a blank legal vessel, its classification depends entirely on what you stuff inside. You want to put rights to physical property in there? Go for it. Financial instruments? Sure. Intellectual property? Absolutely. This token container model is essentially the ultimate legal mechanism to finally sync up the physical and digital worlds. Act 2, the analog bridge. So we've got our legal container. But how exactly does this digital Tupperware legally bind to something tangible? Like an oil painting or a literal gold brick. Well, a recent Justice UK report actually highlighted a major innovation here. Liechtenstein created a specialized, licensed role to enforce this exact synchronization. They call it the physical validator. Because if you're tokenizing something physical, you absolutely need rock-solid assurance that the digital token maps perfectly to physical reality. The crux of it is that this physical validator acts as an analog bridge. We're talking about a human or a corporate entity putting their own operating license and serious capital on the line, sometimes up to 250,000 Swiss francs, just to physically guarantee that the digital token matches the offline asset. They hold the custody, they verify it exists, and they legally enforce the rights. It's a fantastic, really secure system, but it still relies on a human intermediary, which means it can be slow and inherently flawed. Act 3, the technical engine. This is where we pivot to the code and see how modern Ethereum standards fulfill this legal model technically. This is the exact mapping between sovereign law and digital code. So on the legal side, you have the TVTG providing that sovereign legal container. Then, on the technical side, the ERC 7827 standard, which is also known as Realized Gestalt, steps in to provide the precise technical container. Think of it as a highly structured digital blueprint mapping every single legal right straight into the bite-sized data blocks of Ethereum, law and code perfectly mirrored. At the core of this technical standard is the SIS01 identity trinity. Now, identity here isn't just a basic NFT. It's fractured into 3 very specific layers. Think of it like a corporate structure. The mind pipe is basically the CEO, acting as the root authority making the big decisions. The unified body is your middle management, organizing all the hierarchical roles. And the individual shard is the specific employee actually executing the task. It's the unique coordinate for a specific agent. It is an incredibly robust way to organize complex identity on-chain. And to fit all this complex identity onto the blockchain without, burning up a ton of space, the protocol uses something called bit packing. It's literally like packing a digital suitcase with absolute mathematical precision. 0 empty space left over. It packs a 3-byte link, a 3-byte nonce for finality, and a 26-byte human-readable handle perfectly into the data limits. This guarantees high-fidelity, deterministic records, making sure every single agentic action is flawlessly recorded without any of that excess bloat. Act 4, automating the physical validator. With this incredibly dense, precise, technical foundation locked in, we can finally look at how that analog human physical validator we talked about is being completely automated. The sources frame this shift so beautifully. They say we're moving away from the gambler model, where probabilistic AI is basically just guessing at outcomes like rolling dice at a casino. Instead, we're stepping into the surveyor model. Much like a land surveyor mapping a property line with absolute precision, this relies entirely on deterministic silicon truth. Every single action is perfectly verifiable. It's the total liquidation of what we call informational debt. So how does this automation actually play out in real time? Well, first, digital intent is securely anchored using that identity trinity we just unpacked. Next, that intent crosses a conceptual threshold known as the semiotic bridge. This right here is where the human physical validator is replaced by pure code. Through the Hierarchical Script Database, or HSDB, your digital intent directly commands physical hardware. We're talking about actually turning on a physical motor or unlocking a real-world smart door, all from a direct on-chain command. And this automation creates something profoundly cool, a permanent record of sweat. By using cryptographic signatures, the blockchain can literally prove that physical human work, actual, tangible human horsepower, took place. It anchors digital intent straight into bare metal. No human intermediary needed, no analog physical validator double-checking the physical world. The code itself becomes the validator of reality. It's an absolute game changer. Conclusion: sovereign authorship. Let's bring all this together because this is a massive technological and legal breakthrough. To summarize, Liechtenstein's TVTG gives us the ultimate legal container, meaning any right can be tokenized with total sovereign civil law backing. Then, Ethereum's ERC-7827 standard provides the exact technical identity trinity to house those rights securely on-chain. And finally, the Hierarchical Script Database, the HSDB, automates that physical validation, linking deterministic code straight to bare metal hardware. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought to chew on today. In a world where smart contracts can directly command the physical world with absolute, deterministic silicon truth, and let's not forget, total sovereign legal backing from an actual nation-state, what intermediaries are even left to trust? The bridge between sovereign law, digital code, and physical reality isn't just theoretical anymore, it's already built. The autonomous economy is here. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it sparked your curiosity to learn more.